The moment my mother touched my desk, I realized something terrifyingly clear. This wasn't about space. It was about power. And she had already decided I didn't deserve any. My name is Ava Reynolds. I'm 27 years old, and I work as a remote UX designer. I live in Riverside in the same house I grew up in, the one I never really left because family sticks together. Or, at least that's what I was told every time I tried to move out. On paper, it looked fair. We all lived under one roof. We all contributed. But in reality, I was the quiet engine keeping everything running. That night started like any other. Headphones on. Client call queued. Deadline breathing down my neck. Then I heard footsteps. Not rushing. Not angry. Certain. My mom walked into my room, my office, and placed both hands on my desk like she was about to pray. Instead, she pushed. Not hard. Just enough. My monitors flickered. My keyboard slid. My chair scraped the floor.
She didn't ask.
She didn't raise her voice. She just said, calm and final. Ethan needs this room. He's starting his content studio. You can work downstairs. That was it. No discussion. No warning. My younger brother, Ethan, 24, aspiring streamer, leaned against the doorframe like he was watching an episode of something entertaining. Arms crossed. Smile ready. Basement's quieter anyway, he said. Then he laughed. Like it was a favor. I looked at my mom. Waited for her to correct him. She didn't. That room wasn't just a room. It was where I paid the internet bill. The electricity. Half the mortgage. It was where I built a career while everyone else told me remote work wasn't a real job. My chest tightened. Not with anger. With clarity. I said one word. Okay. No fight. No tears. I unplugged my laptop. Grabbed my hard drive. Tucked my notebook under my arm. I walked past them and down the stairs. They thought I was complying. They didn't know, okay, was the sound of something ending. Hold on, before we get into the real stuff, I want to know, what are you doing at this exact moment while hearing my voice? Are you scrolling? Lying in bed? Sitting alone with headphones on? Tell me in the comments. I read them all. The basement smelled like dust and old paint. One flickering bulb. No desk. No door. I set my laptop on a storage bin and opened my inbox. 5 unread messages. 2 missed calls. I stared at the screen, but my hands wouldn't move. Because in that moment, I realized something else. They didn't just take my office. They took my last reason to stay.
So I didn't unpack.
I didn't argue. I waited until everyone went to sleep. At 1:47 a.m., I zipped my backpack, slid my laptop inside, pulled on my jacket. I left the house without turning on a single light. No note. No goodbye. I slept in my car that night, parked 2 streets away, heart racing like I'd just committed a crime. But I hadn't. I had finally stopped volunteering to be invisible. The next morning, my phone started vibrating before sunrise. Missed call. Missed call. Text message. From my mom. Where are you? Then another. We need to talk. Then another. We can't figure out the bills. I didn't answer, because for the first time in my life, they were about to feel what it was like
To lose me.
By noon, I realized silence scares people more than shouting ever could. I woke up in my car with my phone buzzing nonstop, the screen lighting up the cracked windshield like an alarm I refused to shut off. 12 missed calls, 8 texts, all from home. I didn't open them right away. I just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, feeling something unfamiliar settle in my chest.
Peace.
Thin, shaky, but real. I drove to a cafe across town, ordered the cheapest coffee, and plugged my laptop in. Wi-Fi connected. Inbox loaded. Clients waiting. Work didn't stop just because my family pushed me aside. If anything, it finally felt like mine again. At 9:14 a.m., my brother called. I let it ring. At 9:16, my mom followed with a voicemail. I didn't listen. I already knew the tone. Confused first, then irritated, then worried. At 10:03, the text changed. Are you mad? Did you go to a friend's? Your brother has a stream scheduled. Can you come back just to help for today? That one made me laugh. Just to help. Like I'd been doing anything else for years. I finally checked my bank app while my coffee went cold. Rent transfer scheduled. Utilities pending. Internet bill due tomorrow. Every auto payment traced back to one account.
Mine.
I hadn't realized how obvious it looked until I stepped away. The house didn't run on love or fairness. It ran on my income. Another call came in. I answered this time. Where did you go? My mom asked, skipping hello. I moved, I said. A pause. Not concern. Calculation. You're being dramatic, she replied. We just needed the room temporarily. For how long? I asked. Well, Ethan's channel is growing. This is important for his future. I pictured my office again. The desk I bought secondhand. The sound panels I installed myself. The hours no one saw. And my future? I asked. She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. You're flexible. You can work anywhere. That was the moment. The exact second something snapped clean in half. I am working, I said. Just not for you anymore. Her voice sharpened. You can't just leave. The mortgage. I know, I interrupted. I pay half. Silence. Heavy. Startled. She hadn't expected me to say it out loud. You'll come back tonight, she said, trying to sound certain. We'll talk. No, I said calmly. I won't. The call ended without goodbye. I stared at my reflection in the dark laptop screen. 27 years old. Exhausted. Independent. Invisible until I wasn't. At noon, Ethan texted, You're messing everything up. My camera setup won't fit in the basement. Mom's freaking out. I didn't reply. I closed my laptop, gathered my things, and drove somewhere I'd never considered before. A short-term rental office near the river. Nothing fancy. Just clean. Quiet.
Mine.
The agent didn't ask many questions. She just slid the papers across the desk and smiled like she'd seen this before. People starting over. People choosing themselves. My hand hovered over the signature line for a second longer than necessary. Then I signed. No ceremony. No applause. Just a pen scratching a new boundary into existence. On the drive to my new place, doubt tried to catch up. What if I was wrong? What if I crawled back tomorrow? Then I imagined the basement again. The flickering light. The joke disguised as permission. The answer came easily. I kept driving, radio off, listening only to my own breathing steady itself. For once, no one needed anything from me. That thought felt dangerous and freeing. It also felt permanent, like crossing a bridge behind me. There was no going back now. By evening, the calls came faster. My aunt, my cousin, even my mom's friend. Your mother is worried. She didn't mean it like that. Family doesn't walk away. None of them asked why I left. I unpacked my laptop on a small wooden table and opened my design software. Same work. New air. Outside the window, the river moved steadily, indifferent to my family drama. It felt like permission. At 11:48 p.m., my mom sent one last message. We made a mistake. I stared at it for a long time, because finally, they weren't asking where I was. They were realizing what they'd lost, far too late now. The begging didn't start with apologies. It started with panic. The first knock came at 7:02 a.m. sharp. 3 knocks. Careful. Controlled. Like my mom was afraid the door might bite her. I didn't answer. I stood in my kitchen, coffee steaming, watching the handle twitch once before going still again. My phone buzzed immediately after. A text. Please open the door. I didn't, because for the first time I wasn't required to. 10 minutes later, another knock. Louder this time. Less patient. I opened the door just enough to see her face. She looked smaller. Tired. Not angry. That surprised me. We just need to talk, she said. I leaned against the doorframe. You're talking now. She glanced past me, eyes scanning my apartment like she was mentally calculating square footage. Old habit. Your brother hasn't slept. The internet bill bounced. The bank called. I nodded. That happens when the person paying leaves. Her mouth tightened. You could have warned us. I did, I said. For years. She flinched, like I'd raised my voice. I hadn't. Behind her, Ethan hovered by the stairs, arms crossed the same way they always were. Defensive. Familiar.
He wouldn't look at me.
This isn't fair, he said finally. You know I need that space. I smiled.
Small. Calm.
And I needed respect.
He scoffed.
You're overreacting. That word again. The one used whenever I refused to shrink. I opened the door wider. Come in, I said. Let's be clear. They stepped inside. My apartment was quiet. No clutter. No noise. Just me. Mom sat stiffly on the couch. Ethan stayed standing like he might bolt. I'm not coming back, I said. Mom's eyes widened. Don't say that. I already lived it, I replied. I'm just saying it now. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. We can move things around, she said quickly. Ethan can share. Or we can convert the garage. I laughed. Not cruelly. Honestly. You already made your choice. Her voice cracked. We didn't think you'd actually leave. There it was. The truth, naked and ugly. You thought I'd absorb it, I said. Like always. Ethan finally looked at me. So what? You're punishing us? I shook my head.
No.
I'm protecting myself. Silence filled the room.
Thick.
Uncomfortable. Necessary. Mom swallowed. We need help, Ava. I met her eyes. You needed help before.
You just didn't call it that.
They left 20 minutes later. No resolution. No hugs. Just a door closing softly behind them. My phone rang an hour after that. My aunt again. Then my uncle. Then a number I didn't recognize. Word traveled fast when the safety net walked away. By afternoon, messages stacked up like evidence. Screenshots of overdue notices. Passive-aggressive guilt. Your mom is sick with worry. Families don't keep score. Be the bigger person. I muted them all. Instead, I opened my laptop and sent an email I'd been drafting for months. A resignation letter. Not to a job. To a version of myself that stayed silent to keep peace. That night, I slept deeply. No dreams. No anxiety spikes. Just rest. The next morning, something unexpected happened. A deposit hit my account. From my mother. Memo line. Please. I stared at it. Pulse steady. Mind racing. Because this wasn't an apology. It was leverage. And now I had to decide exactly how far this revenge would go. That decision scared me more than leaving ever had. I knew if I answered emotionally, I'd lose control. If I answered strategically, everything would change. I didn't touch the money. I didn't send it back. I let it sit there, untouched, like a question waiting to be answered. Outside, the river kept moving. Inside, I planned my next move carefully. Because this time, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. And that difference meant the story was no longer about survival. It was about control, consequences, and finally being seen. I turned my phone face down and smiled, not because I was happy, but because I was ready. Ready to set terms. Ready to stop apologizing. Ready to remind them that losing me was never temporary. It was permanent, and they had just started to understand that. And as night fell, I knew tomorrow would bring something bigger, something louder, something that would force a choice they could no longer avoid. I took a breath, closed my eyes, and let the silence sharpen into resolve. Whatever happened next, I would not back down. The moment I set boundaries, they tried to rewrite history. The calls didn't stop after the deposit. They multiplied. My phone became a confession booth nobody asked permission to use. By mid-morning, my voicemail was full of trembling voices, half-truths, and sudden amnesia. Everyone remembered things differently now. Suddenly, I had always been supported. Suddenly, the office was shared. Suddenly, my leaving was out of character. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a spreadsheet. For years, I'd tracked everything. Not because I planned revenge, but because survival taught me precision. Every transfer, every bill, every "I'll pay you back later" that never came back. The numbers stared up at me, unemotional and undeniable. I wasn't dramatic. I was essential. At 11:32 a.m., my mom showed up again, this time alone. No knocking. She rang the bell twice, then once more, harder. I let it ring until it stopped. When I opened the door, her eyes went straight to my face, searching for softness. She didn't find it. "We need a plan," she said. "I already made one," I replied. She stepped inside without waiting for permission. "Old habits die loudly. Your brother's channel is stalled. The equipment lease is overdue. The bank flagged our account." I asked calmly. She hesitated. That household, I said, is no longer my responsibility. Her voice rose. "So you're just going to abandon us?" I met her gaze. "You abandoned me first." I just stopped pretending it was normal. She pressed her lips together, then pulled out her phone. "I talked to your uncle. He says this is extreme." "Of course he does," I said. "He never needed permission to take up space." Her shoulders slumped. For a moment, she looked her age. "Older." "What do you want?" she asked. There it was. Not understanding. Negotiation. "I want acknowledgement," I said. "Not excuses. Not guilt. The truth." She exhaled slowly. "We didn't think you'd leave, because you always stayed." The words landed heavy but honest. "And you counted on that," I said. She didn't deny it. I walked to my desk and turned my laptop toward her. The spreadsheet glowed between us. Rows of dates, amounts, totals. Her eyes widened. "This is what I covered," I said, quietly, "for years." She whispered my name like an apology might follow. It didn't. "You chose Ethan's comfort over my livelihood," I continued. "And you called it family." Tears finally came. Real ones. Messy. "I didn't know how much you were carrying." "That's the problem," I replied. "You didn't want to know." She reached for me again. I stepped back again. "I'm not cutting you off," I said. "I'm stepping back." "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means no money, no emergencies, no expectations," I said. "We rebuild this relationship from zero, if we rebuild it at all." Her face tightened with fear, not of losing me, of losing stability. "And if we can't," she asked, "then this is where it ends," I said gently. She left without arguing. That scared me more than yelling would have. That evening, Ethan posted a video. Not a stream. A rant. He didn't say my name, but he didn't have to. "Some people forget where they come from," he said. "Success changes them." The comments exploded. Half supportive, half suspicious. I watched silently, noticing how quickly admiration turned when the narrative felt forced. He'd never learned subtlety. He'd never had to. By nightfall, I received an email from the bank. The joint account was overdrawn. I didn't feel guilt. I felt gravity, because consequences had finally arrived. And tomorrow, they would hit even harder, in a way no apology could undo. The silence before that impact felt almost peaceful, like standing still before a storm that only destroys what was already broken. I turned off my phone, locked my door, and let the night settle. Whatever came next would not be loud. It would be final. And for the first time, that didn't scare me at all. The fallout didn't explode. It leaked. Slowly. Everywhere. The first sign came from the bank, but it didn't end there. By Tuesday afternoon, my mother's carefully curated image started cracking in places she couldn't control. The homeowners association called. The internet provider shut off service. The streaming equipment lease defaulted. One missed payment revealed another, then another, like pulling a thread and watching the whole sweater unravel. I found out because my cousin messaged me a screenshot. "Is this true?" she asked. The image showed Ethan's channel page, plastered with comments. Not hateful. Curious. People asking why streams were canceled. Why excuses sounded rehearsed. Why the support system he bragged about suddenly vanished. I didn't respond. I wasn't celebrating. I was observing. That night, my mom called again. I let it go to voicemail.
She sounded different now.
No anger. No authority. Just urgency. We're meeting with the bank tomorrow, she said. They're talking about penalties. Please call me.
Please.
That word used to soften every demand. I sat on my couch, laptop closed, and thought about all the times I'd skipped meals to make transfers on time. All the nights I worked late while Ethan practiced thumbnails and called it hustle. This wasn't revenge fueled by cruelty. It was consequence fueled by absence. The next morning, Ethan showed up at my door alone. He didn't knock. He waited until I stepped out to take trash. You did this on purpose, he said. I set the bag down slowly. I left. You knew everything would fall apart, he snapped. You planned this. I looked at him, really looked. The entitlement, the panic underneath it. I plan my escape, I said, not your collapse.
He scoffed.
You always act like the victim. I stepped closer, and you always act like the center. He opened his mouth, then closed it. No comeback, no script. Just come back, he said quietly, at least until things stabilize. I shook my head. Stability built on me disappearing isn't stability. His jaw tightened. So, you're just going to watch us drown? I watched myself drown for years, I replied. You didn't notice. He left without another word. By afternoon, the family group chat lit up.
Plans.
Solutions. Suggestions that all circled back to the same unspoken conclusion.
Me.
I muted it too. Instead, I met with a financial advisor. Someone neutral. Someone who didn't call sacrifice love. We went through my income, my expenses, my future. For the first time, my plans didn't include contingency money for emergencies that weren't mine. That evening, I cooked dinner in silence. No rushing. No guilt. Just me. At 8:17 p.m., my mom texted again. We may have to sell the house. I stared at the message longer than I expected. That house held my childhood. My first sketchbooks. The bedroom walls I'd painted myself. But it also held every compromise, every dismissal, every invisible contribution. I typed one sentence. I hope you make the decision that's best for you. She didn't reply. Later that night, Ethan posted another video. This one softer. Apologetic in tone, vague in details. The comments shifted again. Sympathy replaced suspicion. He was learning. Too late, but learning. I shut my laptop and leaned back, exhaustion washing over me. Revenge stories usually end with shouting, with triumph, with a dramatic reveal. This one was ending with something quieter. Distance. And that scared them more than anger ever could. Because distance can't be argued with. It doesn't respond. It just exists unmoved. As I turned off the lights, I realized something else. I didn't feel empty. I felt full. Full of space. Full of breath. Full of a future that didn't require me to shrink. Tomorrow would bring another message. Another attempt. Another appeal. But tonight, the silence belonged to me. And I intended to keep it. They didn't beg anymore. Now, they were afraid. The shift was subtle at first. Fewer messages. Longer gaps between calls. When people realize guilt no longer works, they switch to fear. I could feel it in the tone, in the wording, in the sudden politeness where entitlement used to live. 3 days passed without contact. Then, on the 4th morning, my mom sent a single text. Can we talk tonight? Just us. No urgency. No accusations. That scared me more than the chaos had. I agreed. We met at a small cafe near the river, neutral ground. She arrived early, already seated, hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched. She looked thinner. Not fragile, just human. Thank you for coming, she said. I sat across from her. Say what you need to say. She nodded, gathering herself. The bank froze the account. I waited. They're giving us 60 days, she continued. After that, we either refinance or sell. And I asked. And Ethan can't qualify alone, she said quietly. There it was. Not apology.
Reality.
I told him he needs a job, she added quickly. A real one. I raised an eyebrow. And he says he's trying. I sip my coffee. Bitter. Grounding. She looked at me, then really looked. I didn't realize how much of the house was built on you. I didn't soften. You did. You just didn't want to acknowledge it. Tears welled, but she didn't let them fall. I failed you. That sentence landed heavier than anything she'd said before. I'm not here to punish you, I said. I'm here to protect myself. She nodded slowly. I know. We sat in silence, the river moving behind the glass, indifferent as always. I'm not asking you to come back, she said finally. I know you won't. I studied her face, searching for the hook. There wasn't one. I'm asking, she continued, if there's any way to start over. I took a breath. That depends. On what? She asked. On whether you're willing to accept a relationship where I'm not the backup plan. Her shoulders sagged. I don't know if I can promise perfection. I'm not asking for that, I said. I'm asking for effort without expectation. She nodded. Once. Firm. I can do that. We stood to leave. No hug. Just a shared understanding that something old had ended. That night, Ethan messaged me for the first time without anger. I got a job interview, he wrote. Warehouse. Nights. I stared at the screen. Good, I replied. Nothing else. Days passed. Then weeks. The house went on the market. A small sign appeared in the front yard I used to mow. I drove past once. Just once. It felt strange. Not painful. Distant. Ethan stopped posting regularly. When he did, it was different. Less bravado. More realism. His audience shrank, then stabilized. He was learning limits the hard way. My mom called once a week. Sometimes we talked about practical things. Sometimes about nothing at all. She didn't ask for money again. Not once. That mattered. One evening, she told me, I started working part-time. I smiled. I'm proud of you. She sounded surprised, like she hadn't heard that in a while. As for me, my life expanded quietly. New clients, better rates, a sense of ownership I'd never known. I decorated my apartment slowly, intentionally. No rush. No justification. Revenge didn't look like destruction. It looked like independence. And independence terrified them because it meant I no longer needed permission to leave. The final test came unexpectedly in the form of one last message from my mom. They made an offer on the house. I typed back after a long pause. I hope it's enough. It was. The chapter closed without fireworks. No dramatic confrontation. No victory speech. Just consequences settling where they belonged. And for the first time, I slept knowing my life was finally mine. Just when I thought it was over, the past asked for one last conversation. I didn't expect the call. It came late, after dinner, when my apartment was quiet and my guard was down. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. Something told me not to. Hello. Ava, my father said. I hadn't heard his voice in 3 years. My chest tightened, not with pain, but with surprise. He'd left when I was 24. Not suddenly. Gradually. Less presence. Fewer opinions. Then absence. He'd chosen peace over involvement, or so he said. I heard about the house, he continued, like we spoke every week. I'm sure you did, I replied. There was a pause. He cleared his throat. Your mom told me everything. I almost laughed. That sentence used to mean I was about to be blamed. And I asked. And she said you carried more than anyone realized, he said. I should have seen it. I leaned against the counter. Seeing it now doesn't change then. I know, he said quickly. That's why I'm calling. Another pause. Longer. He sounded unsure. I'm proud of you, he said finally. The words felt strange. Heavy. Not because I wanted them, but because they came so late. Thank you, I said, and meant it in a distant way. I wanted to ask, he added, if you'd meet me. Just once. I considered it. Not out of obligation. Out of curiosity. Coffee, I said. Public. Of course. We met 2 days later. He looked older, smaller. Regret had a way of doing that. The conversation stayed safe at first. Weather, work, neutral territory. Then he said it. I stayed quiet because it was easier. I nodded. It usually is. I thought you were strong enough to handle it, he admitted. That's what people say when they don't want to help. I replied, not unkindly.
He accepted that.
That mattered too. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. I just didn't want this chapter to end without saying something. I studied him. It already ended, I said. This is an epilogue. He smiled sadly. Fair. When we parted, I didn't feel closure. I felt confirmation. I had outgrown the need for approval from people who benefited from my silence. That night, I walked home slowly, city lights reflecting off the river. I thought about the word revenge, how people imagine it loud and explosive. This wasn't that. This was quiet accountability. It was absence teaching a lesson presence never could. The next morning, I received an email from a legal office. Subject line: Estate clarification. My stomach dropped. Inside, a brief message. My grandmother had updated her will months before she passed. Something I hadn't known. Something nobody had told me. I was listed, not as a beneficiary of money, but as the sole recipient of her small rental property. A place my family assumed would be sold to cover debts. A place I'd helped renovate one summer, free labor, quiet afternoons. The email ended with a request to schedule a call. I sat down slowly. This wasn't planned. This wasn't revenge. But it was about to change everything. Because if my family found out before I decided what to do, it would reopen every boundary I'd built. Money didn't just complicate relationships. It revealed them. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. Can we talk tomorrow? Something came up. I looked at the email again. The timing felt too precise to be coincidence. For the first time since I left, I felt a familiar pressure. Not to rescue, not to fix, but to choose. Do I tell them? Do I protect myself? Do I walk away quietly again? I closed my laptop and stared out the window as the sun dipped low. This was the final test. Not of loyalty, of self-respect. And whatever I decided next would determine whether the story truly ended in peace or one last, irreversible fracture. The last choice wasn't about money. It was about who I refused to become again. I didn't answer my mom's message right away. I sat with the email from the legal office open on my screen, reading it over and over until the words stopped feeling real. The property wasn't flashy. One small rental unit. But it was mine. No strings. No shared ownership. No expectations attached. That was the difference. The next morning, I agreed to meet my mom. Same cafe. Same table. She looked anxious, fingers tapping her cup. She didn't waste time. Your grandmother left something, she said. I nodded. I know. Her eyes searched my face, trying to measure how much I knew. We assumed it would help settle things, she continued carefully. With the house sold, the debts. I'm not discussing money, I said gently. She froze. I'm not asking for it. I held her gaze. You were about to. Silence settled between us, thick but honest. That property is mine, I continued, and I'm keeping it. Her shoulders sagged, not in anger, in understanding. I thought so, she said quietly. This isn't revenge, I added. It's boundaries. She nodded slowly. I see that now. We talked for a long time, not about fixing things, about accepting them. When we stood to leave, she hugged me for the first time without expectation. I let her. Ethan never asked. He heard through someone else. He sent one message. Congrats. I get it. That was enough. Months passed. The rental income stabilized my life in a way that felt surreal. Not extravagant. Secure. I didn't tell extended family. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. The house sold. My mom downsized. Ethan kept his job. Their lives adjusted without my constant reinforcement. Mine expanded. I visited the rental property once, standing in the doorway where my grandmother used to sit and drink tea. I understood then. She hadn't left me an escape. She'd left me a choice. One she knew I'd need. This story never went viral in real life. No one applauded. No one crowned me the villain or the hero. And that was the point. The real revenge wasn't taking something from them. It was taking myself back. I no longer answer calls out of guilt. I no longer stay quiet to keep peace that costs me everything. I learned that love without respect is just control wearing a softer mask. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, let me tell you this. You don't need to announce your exit. You don't need permission to leave. And you don't owe your future to people who only value you when you're useful. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all, and mean it. If this story resonated with you, take a second to support the channel. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Silent Revenge Lab for more stories where quiet strength wins. Because the loudest revenge is living well and never moving your desk back.